Hey traders, Raghee here, and for this video I'm going to recap the trades from this morning, which is going to be a big part of what I'm going to be talking about in tonight's webinar, which you can check out over at simplertrading.com/pattern if you haven't already registered. If you can't attend live, don't worry about it. We send the replay out within just a few hours, so you can check that out. But let me give you a little sneak peek at what it is that I'm doing every morning between 9:30 and 11:30. Now, those 2 hours are about, and I love this analogy, the minimum effective dose. You guys might know that, right? When we're supplementing or we're trying to get healthy. What is the minimum effective dose? And that's kind of the mentality to any of my trading. What is going to get me the best results in essentially the most effective, not the least, but the most effective amount of time? So it really comes down to a very simple thing. Trade less, win more. Be more selective at the plate, like a big league hitter would be, and wait for the best pitches. So with that in mind, I'm going to walk you through the setups and the alerts from this morning's trades. All right. And by the way, if you did catch yesterday's free video, you know that I'm long gold. So if you haven't checked that out, my life isn't just day trading, although this is a very important and certainly productive part of my life. Go check out yesterday's free video too, because when I'm not day trading, just now that I'm looking at this 2 hours, just because I day trade doesn't mean I don't look for trend following longer term trades. So again, check out that gold setup. All right, back to the Dow and the NAS, which is what I'm going to talk about here. What we had was a classic move, and I'll tell you, I think I was not aggressive enough this morning, but what we had was a classic move from a specific kind of gap. And that gap tends to tempt traders to fade it right on the open. Now, I thought it was a little narrow for the kind of gap criteria. There's two kinds of gap criteria I look at, and that criteria was met, but in a very average way. I like to see more extremes because that increases the product. I think it increases the likelihood that we're going to see the fade, and it makes for a much more productive trade. All right, so what do we end up with? We ended up with opportunities to go ahead and try to get long DIA calls. And depending on how aggressively you're comfortable trading, I would say the DIA calls were your only, if any, setup today. I would not have played the YM today. I would have focused on the DIA calls, which just sort of emphasizes something. My day trading is not just about futures. I love trading the futures, but there are times that I'm going to day trade the options alongside of them. One thing that I have active right now are some calls in Home Depot. They may not look really interesting right now, but I'm looking at a longer term play to the long side in Home Depot. So it's really sort of a way in which to cast a wide net, meaning the indices, but still be able to look at some individual stories. All right, so DIA and Dow. If the Dow only gives you kind of aggressive aggro entries, think about how you can use the options on the ETF to minimize your risk, but still engage with the trade. All right, the NQ did come down and tag our entry, and because it met certain criteria, because it had broken certain thresholds of resistance by the 11:30 cutoff that I look for, because it had broken certain levels of resistance, we are able to then continue to look for more upside in the NQ. So this has already hit our first target at 11.4, and now I'm very actively looking for where our second target is. Now, I'm recording this right now at 5 minutes after 2 p.m. Eastern. So we're coming out of the midday doldrums. We're coming out of those sort of quiet sideways periods. Gang, you know what? This is something we can talk about tomorrow, but this is actually setting up a pattern right now where I'd say coming out of the lunchtime doldrums, I'm going to look for another push higher into the close as we go into 4 p.m., 1600 hours. Now, the only thing that may derail this, and I'll take this on smaller size, is because tomorrow is options expiration. Any other week, any other Thursday leading into Friday, I'd be actually looking for an afternoon surge into the close. So because it is options expiration, I'll do this with a little bit lower expectation for the kind of probability that we typically see, but this is actually setting up sort of the pattern that I like to see into the close for a surge. So let's see what happens. We can review this tomorrow. Again, if you haven't registered and you want to see the kind of trading that I'm doing right now, the morning, focusing on the morning, you can check that out at simplertrading.com/pattern. All right, gang, I'll see you in the next update.